Nobody is going to tell you this on the evening news. The highlights will not run on the biggest sports shows. The debates will not happen on the morning programs. But in one single week in June 2026, Caitlin Clark rewrote the WNBA record books, not once, not twice, but 3 separate ×3 records that took 28 years to build, all broken in 7 days. Most of the world does not even know it happened. So today, we are walking through every single one together. These numbers are real. These records are permanent. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this week belongs in history, the record that changed after. She arrived at to understand why the first record matters. You have to understand what it actually demands of a human being. To produce it, a 30-point 10-assist game is not just a good night. It is not simply a player getting hot and everything falling.
So does Clark. Up and in!
It is one of the rarest individual statistical combinations in the history of professional basketball, a performance that requires a player to carry 2 completely opposite offensive responsibilities. At the exact same time, across 40 or more minutes of elite competition against professionals whose entire job is to stop exactly that from happening. Scoring 30 points in a professional basketball game means that is a mountain on its own. Now add 10 assists to that same night, 10 times in that same game. You have to shift your entire mindset from scorer to creator. Reading the defense in real time, identifying the open teammate in a fraction of a second, making the decision before the window closes, and delivering a pass precise enough that your teammate can catch and convert it cleanly. 10 times in the same game where you also scored 30. That is not 2 things happening at once. That is 2 completely different elite skills being executed simultaneously across the same 40-plus minutes.
Martin looking. Here's Clark. She fires and goes!
Against a defense that is doing everything in its power to make both of them impossible. Most elite basketball players spend their entire careers on one side of that equation. The scorers score, the playmakers create. The rare few who can genuinely do both at a high level are celebrated as generational talents, and even those players, the ones who are specifically known for their ability to score and pass, still rarely produce the combination at the 30 and 10 threshold in a single game. Because the 30-point marker is not just a good scoring night, it is a statement. It is the kind of output that defines a performance that gets referenced in highlight packages that opposing coaches circle on film, and reaching it on the same night. You're also orchestrating 10 assisted baskets. 10 individual moments where a teammate scored because of a decision you made is something the professional game has almost never seen.
Commissioner's Cup game again. Indiana still very much alive as Boston and Cardoso tip it up, and we are underway.
Across 28 full seasons of WNBA basketball, thousands of games, every great player the league has ever seen, every era from the league's founding through the modern game, every championship run, and every defining performance. In the sport's history, only 4 games in the entire history of the WNBA had ever produced the 30 and 10 combination before. Caitlin Clark took the floor in 2020.4.4 games. The entire league 28 years. 4 times total across every player who has ever competed in this sport at the professional level. And then Clark came along, and in her first 3 seasons, she produced it 3 times herself. On June 12, 2026, Indiana Fever faced the Chicago Sky in a Central Division matchup. The engine. You are the one creating your own shot, finding space against defenders who have studied your tendencies on paper. It was a regular season mid-June game. What unfolded was something that the record books had to scramble to accommodate. Clark scored 32 points. She dished out 10 assists. She went to the free throw line 15 times and made every.
Clark can't hit. Got her own. One-handed pass to Boston.
Single 1.15 for 15. Perfect. In a game that went to overtime and demanded more from her legs and her mind than a regulation 40 minutes ever could. Indiana won 114-106 when the overtime buzzer sounded. And when the final statisticians updated their records, the number next to Clark's name in that 30 and 10 column moved from 2 to 3.3. The rest of the league, combined, has 4. Clark alone has 3. Is there a more efficient way To illustrate the distance between where she plays and where the rest of the record books live, she is not approaching history from a distance. She is rewriting it from the inside, one performance at a time, at a pace that the sport was simply not built to accommodate. The Indiana Fever entered that game at 6 wins and 5 losses, a team with something to prove, a roster quietly building towards something meaningful all season long. When Clark produces a 32-point,
Caitlin Clark is now the all-time scoring leader in women's D1 college basketball.
10 assist, 15 for 15 performance in overtime, she does not just win the game for Indiana, she sends a message to every other team in the league about what is coming for the rest of the season. Every opponent who watches that film now has to ask themselves the same uncomfortable question. If preparation, professionalism, and a well-designed defensive scheme were not enough to stop her on June 12th, what exactly is the answer? There is not one. That is what 3:30-10 games tells you. The first time Clark produced that combination, opposing coaches logged it as an outlier, a peak night where everything fell her way and the conditions were perfect. The second time, that explanation became harder to sustain. The third time, against a team that had every reason and every resource to be ready for exactly what she was going to do, the explanation evaporates entirely.
Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark was named WNBA Rookie of the Year on Thursday.
3 times at that threshold is not a hot streak. .it is not a phase. .it is a capability. .it is a tool Clark carries into every game she plays, and the rest of the league now has to build their entire defensive preparation around the knowledge that she might use it on any given night, against any opponent in any building. The free throw line performance from that game deserves its own moment of reflection, because it reveals something about Clark that raw scoring numbers can sometimes obscure. 15 attempts, 15 makes in overtime, with her team needing every single, with a defense trying everything available to slow her down. The free throw line. There is no defense, no shot clock, no physical contest, just a player, a ball, and a basket, and the full weight of the game sitting on every single attempt. And in that stripped-back moment where composure is the only tool available, Clark was perfect. Not nearly perfect. Not impressive. Perfect. That kind of performance under that kind of pressure does not come from natural ability alone. .it is built across thousands of hours of practice and hundreds of high-pressure moments. A mental foundation that, at only 24 years old, Clark has already constructed at a level that the record books are still catching up to. The record only she can break. When a record is broken once, it is a landmark, a line in the history books that marks a specific moment and a specific player. When a record is broken again, it becomes a statement, evidence that the first time was not an accident, not a